Hello, this is StopFake News. We disprove fake news about the events occurring in Ukraine. A year ago, the Maidan revolution sprouted at this time in Kyiv. People came to streets protesting, in the first place against the government's not signing the association agreement with the EU, and soon after the violent break of students on November the 30th, people gathered for revolution, for the sake of new future, free of the unprecedented injustice. And since the very first moment this incredibly important to Ukraine event began, it has been accompanied by constant fake news. Russian mass media kept spreading over the balls during the revolution and long after. Today we're going to recollect the most sensational and much talked of news stories. Conveying message about the Maidan events, Russian mass media misinterpreted news and commands as well as confused arithmetic and geographical facts. They in particular understand the number of people on the Independence Square, confused directions like where shots were fired from, as well the names and locations of the buildings. And of course, in the spirit of conspiracy theories, they insisted on the West's involvement in the revolution. For instance, in March, a fake news was spread over, targeting people who could not speak English in access to the news sources. The statement ran that US has allegedly allocated $5 billion for the organization of the so-called coup in Ukraine. According to myths, the expenditures also included paying people taking part in the revolution. However, the original statement ran the positive.
The USA has invested about $5 billion into Ukraine since 1991, after it gained independence again, as a result of the Soviet Union collapse. The money has been spent on supporting the aspirations of the Ukrainian people who want to have a strong and democratic government that would represent their interests.
U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs Victoria Nuland marked in her interview to the CNN that the U.S. had never invested in the Maidan revolution as it was a spontaneous movement. Another much talked of fake news was related to sawn trees. According to myths by Russian Channel 1, the new Ukraine authority saw the trees at the place where February fighting took place in the center of the capital Kyiv. They reportedly could serve evidence against advocates and supporters of the Euromaidan. The broadcaster's report even demonstrated the stumps left.
One of the important details we noticed in the center of Kyiv were the sawn trees. These were alive, not damaged or burned, but alive trees, and only stumps left. These are the trees sniper bullets got stuck or could probably get stuck in during fire on the demonstrators and special riot police Berkut staff in February. And therefore, these trees could be convincing evidence experts could have used to identify the position the shots on Institutska Street were fired from.
However, this appears to be fake. A Ukrainian blogger nicknamed Radegor conducted investigation and proved that all trees that appeared to be located within the combat zone at the Institutska Street were still there. Here is a snapshot of the exchange fire video. The shot clearly shows 9 trees, and here you can see a photograph of the same place made in the middle of April after the Channel 1 had released its report. No one of trees appeared to be cut. Some of these trees, as well as lampposts and billboards, contain the bullet marks. In the report, the Channel 1 contradicts itself. It shows infographics according to which fire was hit from positions in the buildings number 4, 7 and 12 at the Institutska Street, and this is spot on the map. And here all the alleged stamps of the Channel 1 showed in its report. The cut trees were too far away from the firing point. Besides, the off-screen announcer reiterated the statement that some journalists were aware of the upcoming actions of snipers and knew when the protesters would be hit by fire.
The cameraman making the video knew when the bullet shower would start and who would be the targets. The actions of snipers and those recording the murder were coordinated. Apparently, they subordinated to the same unit. A recorded conversation can be another proof of the fact. Atsik, the direct part, is under the plan, starting in a couple of minutes, and you are to show the dead bodies.
But in fact, the cameraman is talking about direct shelling and about direct switching to live transmission he was preparing for, and one can make sure of its listening to the full conversation.
Atsik, the direct part is under the plan, starting in a couple of minutes, and you are to show the dead bodies. I will try to show fire-hidden people. On-air report is coming next. I will talk about the dead.
The question who fired shots was on agenda in Russian media during the Maidan revolution and long after. For instance, Russia 1 broadcast a quote in its report the flexing ex-head of the State Security Service of Ukraine, Alexander Yakimenko, who said that it was the self-defense unit during Maidan revolution that opened fire on people.
The shots came from the Philharmonic Society building. Commandant of the Maidan Self-Defense Parubi was in charge of it. When the first wave of shelling ceased, many could notice about 20 people coming out of the building. They were dressed up in special uniform. They also had grip sacks with. Here are the people living in the Kiev Philharmonic Society building. They have bags and cases with guns inside in their hands.
The report contains a range of inconsistent facts. First of all, the Kiev Philharmonic Society looks like this. Secondly, it is rather far away and, importantly, far aside from the place where some demonstrators were shot dead. Moreover, between the Philharmonic building and Institutka Street, where the fire took place, there are many high buildings that prevent from direct visibility. The people coming out of the building on the video really appear to be representatives of the right sector, but again, they are leaving not the Philharmonic premises, but the Hotel Dnipro that served the organization's headquarters in Kiev for a while. Besides, they were leaving the building not on the day of mass shooting at Maidan, but much later, in late March. One might suggest that Mr. Yakimenko was mistaken and meant not the Philharmonic Society, but the Conservatoire, that it is on the Independence Square. But this theory appears to be doubtful too. The Conservatory's roof does not offer a direct vision of the place where the demonstrators were murdered. The high building of Ukraina Hotel prevents the view. This can be clearly seen on the map. Next story was spread by Itartas agency and Russia 24. They argued that it were not Special Riot Police Unit Berkut members who opened fire on the demonstrators at Maidan, and the Verkhovna Rada's committee led by Gennady Moskal allegedly proved this.
And the last news for today is from Kiev. Men from the special unit Berkut have nothing to do with the murders in the streets of Ukraine's capital. It were not them who were involved in shooting in February of the current year. Temporarily investigating committee of the Verkhovna Rada came to the conclusion after having examined the ammunition used by snipers.
However, in fact, as Mr. Moskal stated on his comments to StopFake News, his words were taken out of the context. He actually meant that the ammunition and guns members of Special Police Unit Berkut and other law enforcement officers had used were gone. Therefore, their bullets extracted from the dead demonstrators do not match the guns which are currently being stored at Berkut's facilities. Moreover, the MP is convinced that submachine guns, sniper rifles, guns and pistols that had been used to fire on people were subsequently transported somewhere and the corresponding documents destroyed. But the fact that Berkut Special Police Unit members opened fire on the protesters, according to Moskal, is beyond any doubt. It is worth mentioning a story by Reuters. Ukraina.ru reported that the agency journalists had allegedly come to a conclusion after conducting open investigation that it was snipers hired by the opposition who were to blame for killing people at Maidan. However, the report by Reuters tells about the Berkut policeman Dmitro Sadovnik, who is suspected of being involved in the shooting at Maidan on February 2014. The journalists described the peculiarities and problems of the investigation. There are no conclusions on who is to be blamed for the shootings, and snipers from the opposition side are barely mentioned. These were only some of fake and sometimes prosperous news stories about the Maidan revolution. To learn more, visit our website StopFake.org. Thank you for your support. Follow our news to learn more about the course of events. You can also follow our YouTube reports. StopFake News is a voluntary project. If you do appreciate our project as vital, please donate to support it. All money transfer details are available at our website StopFake.org. See you.